Shove it, man!
Alright, Shove It Squad. I'm back again to review the next episodes of NWA Makes the Girls Play in TNA. In the last episode, Ken Shamrock was crowned the first ever TNA NWA World Champion, and AJ Styles the first X Division Champion. And to keep it short and sweet like my beak, if you ain't down with the Hawk in the Asylum, I got 2 words for you. The third episode starts out with the NWA president droning on the microphone whilst the crowd boo. He has the worst hair I've ever seen. It's short at the back and sweaty and bald on top. He keeps talking, I wish he would stop. He gives TNA a trophy for joining the NWA. The opening match is a tournament match for the first TNA Tag Championship. It's Storm and Harris who formed last week because the Dups were being homophobic. Look at those cute cap guns.
Cap guns? What are you talking about, cap guns? Woo, it's going down in Tulsa tonight!
And they'll be wrestling the 2 human penises who are managed by a cheap version of the Rinker King cricket guy. Despite being dressed like penises and called Richard and Rod, they don't actually do anything like them. What do I expect? They're not going to piss all over Chris Harris's face, are they? It might surprise you to know this is actually a good match. The Johnsons have some nice power moves, and it's a shame that they're dressed like penises because it's hard to take them seriously. Harris wins as one of the penises catch him in the air and then Storm kicks them over. After the match, the Johnsons fall out with the cricket guy. I don't really understand what they're going for here, it looks very anticlimactic. The guy who looks like Elvis is out now. All he manages to say is "hey yo" before Slapnuts comes out to ruin everything. He says "hey yo my ass." They go to fight, but the obese NWA TNA man stops him. This guy comes across as a complete heel. K-Crush tries to jump Hall, but it doesn't go well for him. In the main event tonight, it will be Hall and Brian Lawler, and they'll be taking on the team of Crushnuts. Goldilocks is backstage, but unfortunately James Storm has been beaten up. The next match is Monty Brown with the Abyss theme music, and Monty Brown threatens Ken Shamrock for some reason. Monty continues to the ring to beat up a flabby jobber. It's over pretty quickly, but I guess this was before the pounce became a thing because Monty Brown wins with the powerbomb. An interesting debut for him here. Backstage again, and Goldilocks is walking around trying to find the obese NWA owner. She asks the hot shots, but they don't do anything. They don't even squeeze their nutsacks for her. The Psycho Dwarf runs up and threatens all the other midgets. 90% of you watching right now aren't homosexual, but there's 10% of you right now that might be. And that's okay, because you're all watching me together. It's the Rainbow Express, Lenny and Bruce, and they're accompanied by their manager Joel Gertner. They're taking on Buff Bagwell and Apollo, but before the match they have time to cut a bad promo. Apollo is trying to get into what Buff Bagwell is saying and keeps saying yes, but then he gets his timing wrong and he looks confused.
Goldie Lick, is that right? Goldie Lick? Oh, I'm sorry, Lick or whatever. The baddest, the biggest, the toughest, the number 2 man in the business.
Ryan Shamrock comes out during the match again, and Jeff Hardy's fake stoner friend gives us some money. I'm not sure where this is going. The commentary team start fighting and mocking people who would like the Rainbow Express. Bagwell awkwardly crashes into Lenny Lane and looks winded. Bagwell hits the blockbuster, but he's messing around, and Lenny Lane hits the super kick for the 3. The story here is that Bagwell can't stop showing off. After the match, he gets on the microphone and says he doesn't want anyone to call him Buff anymore, and that from now on he should be called Marcus. He says his career as Buff Bagwell is now over because he just lost to 2 gay guys.
I'm a 6-time world tag team champion, and I just got beat by 2 gay guys. And you know what else I want to do right now? What's that? I want to go home.
I always wondered how it would end for him. He says he's done and he's going home. The commentary team say we might never see him again. Wow, a walkout angle on the 3rd ever episode of TNA. Seems a bit early, doesn't it? Ken Shamrock comes out next, but he's not giving Ryan Shamrock some money. He says he's confused about why Monty Brown thinks he should get a title shot. He has a fair point. That job match was his first ever one. Shamrock threatens Malice, who would be fighting in the main event tonight. James Mitchell then randomly appears and tells Ken Shamrock he needs to fear Malice. The camera cuts back to Shamrock, who's now been taken out by Malice. They have to put a neck brace on him because he's so hurt. Jerry Lynn is backstage trying to steal Storm and Harris's place in the tag team tournament because they might not be able to compete due to Storm getting attacked backstage. The next match is Puppet the Psycho Dwarf. I'll try and keep it short. I'm not really into midget wrestling. If I was, I'd watch AEW. Alright, put your keyboards down. I've literally never watched a second of AEW in my life. I'm just going by what I've been hearing. The midget he's fighting looks like if AJ Styles was a midget. No, wait, don't! Puppet wins with a TKO on a trash can. Then he hits the referee with a kendo stick and he goes for JB. Then he attacks Don West for being patronising. What the hell am I watching? Backstage, Goldilocks is trying to find out if Ken Shamrock is okay, and the female nurse seems really annoyed that she's trying to cut an interview when she's trying to help him. Ouch! A feather just hit me in the head, and that can only mean one thing. It's time for Francine. Now, whilst the Hawk approves of Francine, and the Hawk enjoyed her last week, oh, for God's sake, the Hawk will censor anything X-rated now because of the new YouTube rules. She's taken on a man in a blonde wig called Taylor Vaughn, who won the Miss TNA competition last week for some reason. I have no idea what to expect here. Francine attacks her with a belt before the match and then chokes her. I didn't hear the bell go, in fact. Jeff Hardy's fake stoner friend on commentary must be kinky, because he's talking about how Francine is his sort of girl, despite her beating him with a belt last week. The man in the wig retaliates and beats back on Francine with the belt. For some reason, the ref then disqualifies her, and somehow Francine wins despite attacking first. Fake stoner friend comes into the ring to celebrate with her. Then she moves his hand onto her boob. Alright, Hawkie, calm down. She licks her lips and then slaps him. It's over. JB interviews Hermie Sadler next, who races cars. Truth comes out to insult him and Hermie attacks him pretty quickly. Truth challenges him to a fight next week, which is accepted. Next up, we got Malice coming out for his world title match. This guy's been really impressive so far. Shamrock comes out looking like an absolute beast despite getting battered early on. Malice is impressive again as expected and works on Shamrock's already injured neck. Ken keeps getting some hope submission spots locked in, but it's not for long. Malice is mostly on top, but this is an incredibly intense matchup. Out of nowhere, Shamrock puts Malice away with a belly to belly, although he got his shoulder up straight after. Wish this one had gone longer. I was really enjoying it. Apparently, Shamrock will be defending the world title against Amori next week, and I assume he's named after that children's TV show, starting with Balor. X Division title is on the line next. It's a fat cab driver with his manager Bobcat, and they'll take on AJ Styles for the X Division title. I don't think this will rank up with the elimination match from last week somehow. David Young looks like an old Jesse Pinkman on lard. AJ Styles is still coming out to born and raised in the USA, but the crowd seem to care a bit more than last week. Who would have thought that the first ever challenger for the X Division title would be David Young? Mike Tenay reminds us that the X Division is not about weight limits, it's about no limits. Very appropriate for the challenger. David Young does hit a moonsault to the outside to his credit. It's going pretty well for him, and then he follows it up by suplexing AJ in the corner. I can't believe what I'm witnessing as David Young hits an enziguri on Styles for a 2 count. His manager Bobcat has been on her phone the entire match and isn't interested in Jesse Pinkman Sr. He hits his spinebuster finisher, but AJ kicks out of it. On the top rope, Pinkman tries to hit a Hurricanrana, but AJ reverses it into the top rope Styles clash as the crowd go nuts, and AJ gets the 3. Bobcat is celebrating in the ring for some reason, so AJ just pushes her over. 90% of you listening right now aren't homosexual. Oh, I'm not doing it again. That's okay, you're all listening to me. Joel Gertner is backstage flirting with Goldilocks. He says that his team are going to be the champions because Harris and Storm can't compete. Out they come. The commentary team reveal that the replacement team will be AJ Styles and Jerry Lynn. Jesus, AJ literally wrestled 5 minutes ago. So this match is to crown the first ever NWA TNA Tag Team Champions. Jerry Lynn smashes the Rainbow Express with a meeting of the minds as Don West says that they like it. He then says that he's sick of their crap as he sounds like he's dumping in his nappy with anger. The whole match is basically a handicap match because AJ is too hurt from the last match against Pinkman. Do you know what? I find it weird. Even wrestlers who pretty much were remembered as a joke had far superior bodies to the legit wrestlers of today. Lenny Lane continues to impersonate Chris Jericho, as along with the Walls of Jericho, he now uses that face buster that Jericho used in 2001. Anyway, AJ Styles hits the spiral tap and AJ puts him away. Wow, we're only 3 shows in and AJ Styles is already a double champion. They literally pushed the guy right from the start. Props to the person who saw AJ Styles' potential so early on. Backstage, the disgusting obese president from the start of the video has been tied up and FU has been written on his fat belly. Just the main event left now on this show. I've watched this Scott Hall match for Ring of the Hawk before as well. It's R-Truth who's going as K-Crush at the time, tagging up with Slapnuts in the team of Crush Nuts. We haven't seen much of him tonight, it's been nice. They're taking on Brian Lawler and Scott Hall. It's actually another good match to complement a good episode of TNA. Hall carries most of the work in this match. Then when he eventually has the chance to tag his partner, Christopher turns on him. Hall fights on against the 3 men for a while, but eventually the numbers game gets the best of him. It was a real star-making performance for Hall and it's a shame it didn't go any further. Jarrett hits the stroke and then Lawler hits the hip-hop drop, so Jarrett pins him for the 3. After the match, Jarrett cuts a promo about how he's going to run Scott Hall out of TNA. Jarrett takes the trophy from the start of the show and bashes Hall with it. They try to put him on a stretcher, but Jarrett dives onto it. Jarrett is basically upset that he's not the champion, and he continues to attack Hall on the stretcher. Then the show goes off the air. Okay, episode 2 for tonight. We start out with a hot match for the tag titles. It's the Disciples of the New Church. Oh, and look, they have a new member. So it's Slash and Tempest, who was Crowbar just a couple of weeks ago. And they've somehow managed to make him look even uglier than he did before. What does Mitchell do to these guys? And of course, AJ Styles and Jerry Lynn are the defending champions. Slash is a solid worker from the matches I've seen, so this one should be good. It's weird to think that for a wrestler who's worked for WWF, ECW and TNA for a couple of years, never got any further, and nowadays he works as a used car salesman. AJ Styles seems to add a new move to his arsenal every match. It's great to watch. It's going to be cool to see his development as we go along here in this series. The New Church hits a double choke bomb, but Lynn could surely do something to stop it, and he looks a bit clueless. Slash hits an Eye of the Storm that looks better than James Storm's manoeuvre. Jerry delivers a cradle pile driver. AJ then tags himself in, but Jerry Lynn looks annoyed about that. AJ hits the spiral tap and it's over. For some reason we get a huge firework display for their title defence. Looks like this team already has problems though. Just gonna chuck this random observation out there. I think we've had the same 2 cage dancers for every show. Hire some new strippers, TNA, it's getting boring. They then have a phone call with Scott Hall, who threatens Brian Christopher, R-Truth and Jeff Jarrett and says he'll take them out in the next few weeks. Brian Christopher out now to explain his heel turn. He blames the frustrations of living in his father's shadow. He comes across like such a goofy kid. He talks about all his problems being brought up by a wrestling dad. Why are they even wasting time talking about this? It's not as if they're going to bring the king in, is it? He basically just says that from now on he's no longer Jerry's kid. It's a match up next and Brian Christopher will be taking on screaming Norman Smiley. I love the wind up slam that Norman does here. It looks like such a powerful move. Brian is so distracted by the chance of Jerry's kid in the match and he can't focus. Surprisingly, this isn't a straight up job match and Norman gets some 2 counts. Eventually Lawler does win the match with the hip hop drop, but in 2002's biggest heel move, he refuses to wear his goggles for it. Jarrett is backstage threatening an NWA official and says he should be the number 1 contender for Ken Shamrock's title, despite not really doing anything so far. K-Crush is out next, who's feuding with the race car driver. I'm not really enjoying this feud. I don't like it when celebrities get involved in wrestling. Truth is running down the crowd and they completely lose it. One unfortunate looking woman almost soils our knickers of anger. She looks like a constipated rat. Someone in the crowd chucks something at Truth and he continues angrily screaming at the crowd. Great heel work. The car crew come out for the match next. Sadler knocks Truth out the ring and batters him on the outside. Truth doesn't like it so he smacks him one. Sadler fights back in the corner and actually manages to get a 2 count off Truth. Truth hits a suplex and follows it up with a power slam. And he tries to pin Sadler, but he only uses 1 finger, so he kicks out. Truth puts the figure 4 on, but Sadler reverses it. Truth then goes for the Hurricanrana, but wow, Sadler hits a powerbomb. Decent performance from him here, considering he's not a wrestler. Truth is starting to get worried, so randomly scoops him up and then puts his feet on the ropes for the 3. Truth attacks him a few times after the bell, so the referee reverses the decision, and Hermie Sadler is the winner. Backstage, Amori is doing some squats in preparation for his match with Ken Shamrock. Ryan Shamrock walks up and Amori pays her for some reason. I wish they'd just hurry up and tell us what's going on here. It's another match next and out come the Hot Shots who don't squeeze their junk. They'll be taking on 2 starving orphans. I've seriously never seen such skinny wrestlers. Are they ill? These are the 2 guys that the internet wrestling fans were creaming themselves about in ROH for a decade. The Briscoes. I can see why nobody hired them. Look at the state of them. I'm sure they're amazing wrestlers, but for the sake of believability, they're not going to be hired by Vince, are they? The Disciples of the New Church come out and Malice takes out all 4 men on his own. Don West calls it the most brutal attack he's ever seen. James Mitchell gets the mic and says that they won't be leaving the ring until Ken Shamrock comes out to face them. He questions Ken Shamrock's manhood, and of course that's something you can never do with Ken. The timekeeper is thrown into the ring, who is the definition of a virgin. I bet this guy is still exactly the same today. Shamrock makes the save, but there's too much of a numbers advantage. Amori makes the save for Shamrock, and then the 2 have an intense stare down. Backstage, Goldilocks is interviewing Stand Up and Shut Up. They're busy chewing tobacco and they threaten the Flying Elvises tonight for some reason. Shut Up is pretty funny to be fair, although he doesn't seem like a natural hillbilly.
If it looks like smells like feels like well then don't put it in your mouth, because it's probably
Next up, the Dups are supposed to come out, but instead Jasmine Sinclair comes out, who is famous for ECW and something else too. Alright Hawk, stop dropping your bird droppings on my head. I know you're up there. She gets the microphone and says that we all know what the letters of TNA really stand for and it's time we got to see some ass. Pretty sure we got to see some from Francine the other week. She asks the crowd who wants to see some TNA, and then they show a little effeminate man in the crowd dancing up and down with his top off. Slick Johnson sprints to get a chair. The booking of Slick Johnson is one of the most consistent things with TNA they ever did. Slick Johnson is being a perv, he always was and he always will. Jasmine puts JB in the chair and says she's going to make him sweat. She dances for Borash as he gives her the snake eyes. She takes her panties off as the crowd almost lose it. An NWA representative then tries to make the save, so Jeff Hardy's fake stoner friend spears him. The NWA nerd continues to stop her and takes her away as everyone complains. What did I just watch? Stand Up and Shut Up come out next with Fluffed Up. They will be taking on Estrada and Sonny Siaki, who I have to point out every time that they have amazing theme music, Flying Through Graceland, just a classic. For some reason I've just had a thought. I remember Ivory telling a story about how the Dup's former manager in WWE slept with Stacey the Cat Carter, and the King knew about it the whole time and it caused a load of trouble. Maybe I should make a video about that. It wasn't either of these two though. Estrada puts away the Dups on his own with a springboard, headbutt, flip thing. There isn't much to say. To the back quickly and Jerry Lynn and AJ Styles are fighting. Their friendship literally only lasted 1 week. Lynn hits a pile driver on a box and calls AJ a glory hound. On to the world title match now. It's Omori who's over on a nice little holiday from Japan and he's taking on Ken Shamrock for the NWA TNA title. It's a solid technical match. Omori almost puts Shamrock away with the clothesline and he's completely dominant. It goes for quite a while and Shamrock is about to win with the ankle lock, but then Jeff Jarrett runs out and hits him with a steel chair. Well, did you expect anything less than Slapnuts appearing? Jarrett also smashes Harley Race with a steel chair. He's holding the ring and going absolutely snapnuts. He gives Shamrock another chair shot and then he leaves. Jerry Lynn is backstage moping about AJ Styles. James Mitchell then marches down the corridor and tells Goldilocks to bring Jarrett to him because Jarrett's about to commit a sin. And then there's a groaning noise and Goldilocks finds another NWA official tied up with FU written on him. And to end the show this week, we've got another X Division match. That's good, it worked out well last time. It's Elix Skipper, Kid Romeo, Tony Mamaluke, Daniels, who makes his TNA debut here, and Jerry Lynn. This is an elimination match with the winner being the #1 contender to AJ Styles' X Division title. Surprisingly, there are no eliminations for a very long time. Daniels hits his first ever BME to the outside, but it's probably the worst one I've ever seen him do as he catches the ring apron. Jerry Lynn is randomly eliminated from the match in a strange turn. He's counted out, but no one notices it happening. I thought he was going to win. Skipper puts Tony Mamaluke away with the overdrive. Elix Skipper then randomly falls out the ring, but it doesn't look like Low-Key threw him very hard. Back in the ring, Low-Key shunts Skipper into the corner. I think this is the move he went for last week that he screwed up. Low-Key goes for a kick, but Skipper matrixes out of it. It looks so cool. Skipper's certainly the MVP of this matchup. Despite that, Daniels puts him away with the last rites. I really do feel like TNA missed the boat with Skipper. Just going back and watching this episode confirms this for me. Kid Romeo is playing the heel again here, and the Hawk quite likes his work. Romeo puts Christopher Daniels away with a move from the top rope. Or he doesn't, because Daniels apparently had his foot on the ropes. I didn't even see it. Low-Key taps Kid Romeo out, so now we're down to the final two. Daniels looks out of it though. Christopher Daniels hits the BME, but he's too tired to cover him, and this allows Low-Key to get his shoulder up when he does cover him. The crowd are all booing and looking at something. I have no idea what's going on. Whilst you have this amazing match going on in the ring, they're all distracted by something. Low-Key eventually wins the match with a key crusher. Great match, another amazing X Division match. What a division this was in the early days. Next week, Low-Key will face AJ Styles for the title. The Flying Elvises then randomly come out to attack Daniels and Low-Key. Apparently they're sulking because they weren't included in the X Division match. Some of the other X Division members come out to make the save. And that's it for NWA TNA, that's it for another week. These reviews just seem to spill out of my beak. Oh, Jarrett comes back out, because we always have to end the show with slapnuts. Jarrett then starts fighting with one of the Tennessee Titans at ringside, and then he gets absolutely flattened. The New Church then randomly come out and attack Jarrett, and he starts smacking everyone with a steel chair. Jarrett is still brawling with Malice in the crowd as the show suddenly ends. What a weird way to end the show. Jarrett is already starting to be booked like the god in TNA. It makes me sick, and if you don't agree with that, I'll hit you with a brick. This week I thought I'd bring you something new. It's called the Smack List, and it's basically a list of YouTubers that I want to whack list. As you can see at the top of the list is Brother Peace, because he's in my good books. He's vastly improved and I have no issues with him right now. He's on the right path to win Rookie of the Year, and the prize is a punch to the gut and a bird dance. In the B zone I've got Balloon Miller. I keep him separate from the rest of What Culture because, let's be honest, they're holding him back. Occupying C is V and Fuso. I'm not his biggest fan right now after the last video where he hijacked not just the video but also the comments section. Now look V, you're not the first to try this. Ask Tom about me. Ask anyone in Levenshulme. I sent that boy back to uni to study hard to find out how to beat me. But but Tom has earned my respect, so I give him a D. A D for don't come back. Now on to the shove it zone. What culture? They have all the time in the world to make original content, but it's the same thing from that crew every week. Talk about fire the WWE writers, someone should fire your writers, and at the same time smack them one, because your channel's like a girl at a time of the month. It ain't fun. We also have Scottish wrestling YouTuber, only because I wanted to make that Sting video myself, so now I'm sulking. I am the TNA channel, and I'm the only one that's allowed to make TNA videos by law. Signed, sealed, and delivered by the Hawk. I travelled from Bridgewater to Bognor Regis. I went everywhere, and everyone says it's mine. I even polled 15 people in Chetnall, for God's sake, and they all say that you crossed the line. So that's the smack it list over until next week. This is Hawk Uso, and if you like the words to come out of my asshole, make sure you subscribe and shut up and smack that bell icon.